Alright, I am back with a Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred review. I will probably do more as launch gets closer in like a week here. I think it's out the 10th. But I did have a review copy. Blizzard is always very good about getting review copies out, despite this being an online game. They have a whole build for it. They're very accommodating, and a lot of online games don't do that necessarily. So I published my written review, which you can go read. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, which is solid. It's good. It's lower than I gave the initial one, but I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing more once it actually launches because I lose all my progress, as you might expect, so none of us can get a head start on the ladder or whatever. This is always sad, and it does kind of limit my playtime because I only have so much time to give, and I don't want to put 80 hours in a week and a half into something that's just going to be deleted when I'm going to continue to cover it after this. So the review also comes with the caveat of you don't really know the true ultra endgame of this, unless you just fully max a character and you're doing all the highest level endgame stuff, and I don't have time to do that within the review period. But I went essentially as far as I could go with my current build, and then I gotta change it around and do a million things and farm a billion things, and I'll pick that up once it starts. To go through kind of what we're doing here, we are in pursuit of Neyrelle, who has the Mephisto Soulstone, and we're gonna try to fully kill him. This takes us to a new region, which is part jungle, part desert. It's big. I think it's bigger than any individual region that we got from the base game. Obviously, it's not nearly as big as that map in total, but in terms of the different counties, I don't know what to call them, regions of the base game, it is significantly bigger. And this also comes with just a metric ton of changes to the game itself, to the point where I'm not even going to be able to cover all of them here. But we did get to experience a number of those, and it's not really possible to separate out these fundamental changes to the game from the expansion content itself. And there's also a bit of seasonal stuff mixed in here because the season's launching at the same time. In terms of the story, I think the story was maybe where I found this the weakest, because also in contrast to how much I really loved the base story of Diablo 4 and Lilith as a villain and Inarius, and the final cutscene is one of the best I can remember in Blizzard history, which is saying a lot. And I've never felt that way about any Diablo stories, really. It's never been quite at that level. The expansion is not quite at that level. I do like Mephisto as a villain. His wolf persona is interesting. The whole corruption of Neyrelle, it's okay. And then there's kind of an interesting sub story about burned knights that have survived the fires of hell, so that one of those is kind of a quasi bad guy. I think they could have done a little more with that. That ends a little abruptly. There are some pretty good cutscenes, but it's not on the level of the base game. So probably one of the weaker aspects to me was the story. What was not weak is the other main draw of this, or the main draw really, which is the Spiritborn class. This is a brand new class that is nothing they've made before, and despite its reliance on animal spirits and sort of being a tribal thing, not like the Witch Doctor, it's not like a druid. It can kind of be a lot of different things. You have 4 different spirits, and you'll probably be combining 2 of them in your build. There's Gorilla, which is tanky. There's Jaguar, which is melee fire slashy. There's Eagle, which is electric stuff and mobility. And there's Centipede, which is poison. I mainly did, my main was Jaguar, and I buffed it up with Gorilla because Gorilla gives you survivability that you'll need at higher levels. My build sort of played the Monk, where you're kind of dashing around and doing melee attacks. So Monk is one of my favorite classes from Diablo 3, so that was cool. My build was an ultimate spam where you have this 45-second cooldown AoE Jaguar jump move, but it can reset on kill. You can lower the cooldown drastically with your capstone skills. So it was pretty fun, and then it only started to slow down as I hit higher torment tiers. But I am really eager to kind of experiment with different ways to build this character out. I think I'll do Centipede next time, just so I don't have to do the exact same build again. There are a number of interesting new aspects for this, and I don't even know if I found all of them, and I certainly haven't found all the uniques for the class, so I did find a good amount. And so to do a full build of this is going to take some time, and I am not like the pro YouTube builds person, and I'm sure I will follow someone else's guide. But I think the Spiritborn class is definitely the biggest boon to things here, and we're all going to be playing that in the new season. So I'm curious what everyone makes of it. Some other new stuff: you get companions now. I actually really liked the companion mini story quests. There's 4 of them, and it's not just like 4 of them are standing around in town and you hire them. Like there's actually a little quest for each of them. There's different sort of play styles and buffs that each of them have, where there's like a big tanky barbarian guy with a shield. There's like a little demon child that has like shadow attacks. There's a berserker former cannibal grandma kind of, and then there's like a bounty hunter archer guy. And I mostly went around with the shadow child because they can make things vulnerable a lot, and that was like kind of part of my build. So they're not like totally game changing or anything, but it's cool they exist. And if you don't want someone following around, you don't have to, but they'll give you, even if they're not, wrecking things with DPS, they'll give you some good buffs and healing and protection and whatever. So good system. They now have runes. This was something that I only was really able to test at kind of lower levels. They were bringing back runes and rune words, but it's not quite the system it used to be with these elaborate, crazily, involved rune words and things. It's essentially you use the gem slots from your armor. There is a activator condition and then a result. So it, for instance, you use an ultimate, it generates 100 rune currency, and then you spend 50 rune currency to summon a druid bulwark shield, and like these can be used across classes. Like there's like rogue stun grenades you can use in any class for a rune, and then so you pick an activator that works with your build, you pick a result thing that works with your build, and it's something you can sub in instead of just putting gems in the slot. They kind of nerfed gems, so I think they just gave them like extra dexterity or extra strength or something, instead of like you need to have max life ones everywhere. So you will be more eager to use runes than maybe before. There are some new activities. One of the main ones is this dungeon where it's timed, but not like a greater rift time. You have to kill certain enemies or kind of installments to up your time, but then also you are doing little mini events of like killing enemies around a brazier or a big brazier, like kind of, spawning a bunch of elites. And that gets you a score where you're trying to get to a higher tier level to get the most rewards while also finishing the whole thing in time. There's also a boss, but the boss isn't timed, thankfully. I think there's 3 new bosses, each of which have like unique mechanics. Like they're not just repeat bosses from other places. So it's not like that different than a greater rift. It's, there's a few more things, and then you can do some modifiers within it to add extra conditions for like bonus loot, things like that. So that's kind of interesting. You can have things there where you can like specifically farm for, upgrade materials as opposed to just loot or whatever. So it's a little bit more freedom there in terms of sort of choosing your path. And then there is one final like ultra endgame thing that's like not a raid per se, but like it's a 2 to 4 player activity, and it gives you like big weekly rewards. And like I wasn't really able to experiment with that too much. I mean, it's a review build. You had to like really perfectly coordinate with other reviewers, and like it feels like something I probably wasn't even prepared for anyway with my current build. So I think that's going to be something I take on later on. One kind of caveat with the review build here is I can't tell if the difficulty curve is like kind of messed up now, or if it's just because of our review build. So the main issue at the start was that none of us started with any renown, like at all. And as you know, renown gives you a bunch of skill points up front, it gives you bonuses, and then at the end it gives you a bunch of paragon points. So without that, you are a lot weaker at the start than you would be otherwise. And this is now a new difficulty system where there are 4 kind of like basic difficulties, like normal, hard, expert, something, and then 4 torment tiers, which is when torment tiers like really start of giving you new loot and stuff you might not have otherwise. It's different than the world tiers. There's no more world tiers. It's this new system, but because we were all so weak at the start, like I had to beat the entire campaign just on normal, and that was the common sentiment among reviewers in the Discord. We were talking like it was very difficult to gear up in whatever for these lower levels, like during the campaign, to a point where it was, you wanted to beat it on normal. And I really pushed myself once I beat that and getting in the end game stuff. I got to Torment 2, but things were like really, really starting to slow down then. And the jump between difficulties is like the jump in difficulty is pretty significant. And it was hard to find sort of big leaps in terms of my character suddenly feeling like way more powerful. And like, I basic gear, and then eventually you start dropping ancestral gear, but at even like Torment 2, it's really rare to get ancestral gear. I'm sure that will change as time goes on, but like it's a lot different than before, where like you get to world tier 4 and like everything is ancestral. Like that has been changed pretty significantly as sort of like how difficulty scaling and damage works, period. So this is something I think people have to get used to, and I can't tell if part of like the difficulty curve that felt like kind of a slog to get between difficulties, like more so than before, is the review build where we didn't have all our stuff. One significant thing is the upgrade materials to like, enhance your weapons and stuff or reroll stuff was like crazily high in terms of the materials they needed, to the point where like we had to ask them about it and they were like, yeah, this is being nerfed for launch. So that's another reason we couldn't really progress that much, because we, also, we're not on our existing characters where we have a stockpile of materials, but also trying to earn the materials for upgrades was like a nightmare. So I'm not going to like say for sure that the difficulty curve is like screwed, but that was an issue for us. And I didn't really try to factor that into my score because it seems more like a product of the review build, but just to give my own experience, that's where I found myself, and I kind of maxed out at Torment 2, even though obviously Endgame is going to be Torment 4, but I physically could not really build myself up past where I was, and I think that will change at launch. It's a solid expansion. I just gave Starfield a 6.5, and I had many problems with that, and I don't think that evolved the game in any meaningful ways. It was just sort of more storylines. This, the stuff it adds, the Spiritborn class, all of the changes they made to like the entire game, essentially, it is a significant difference. I don't know if everything is better, but I really enjoyed my time with it. And like, even if the story is a little lacking, even if, I'm not in the end game yet and can't fully do the long-term, judgment of it, I enjoyed what I played, and I'm certainly eager to play more. And if this is how it's going to go, if they're actually going to start doing annual expansions now instead of just one expansion and calling it a day and doing seasonal ladders and things, I'm all for that. I think there's plenty of room to expand here with more expansions, more stories, things like that. So I am certainly eager to do that. If they can crank these out every year, I think that would be great. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Again, this doesn't launch for a week, and I'll have some more stuff as it actually launches, and as I'm kind of, maybe I will do some advice going through Spiritborn, given that I've, played it for a couple dozen hours already. So yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching. I would say let me know what you think in the comments, but let me know in a week, I guess, and then we'll talk then. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.